Welcome to the AZ Wildcats podcast brought to you by DraftKings. Great deal going on right now. You throw down $5 on a Super Bowl game, and you know what? If that team hits, you get $280 in free plays for new customers. That simple, that easy. All right. There's few people that are more synonymous with Arizona football than the man that I'm about to talk with, and that's Mr. Lamont Lovett. Lamont, how you doing, my man?
I'm doing great, Mike. Thanks for having me on.
I really appreciate it. I was telling you a little bit off air, but I'm going to tell people, when I told my mom today who I was having on, she was kind of starstruck. She says, well, we've been listening to him for 15, 20 years. And I said, yep, we got him on. So again, really appreciate you coming on. So
yeah, it's a pleasure. I like your podcast. I've been listening to it since you started it up, and I've been impressed with the guests and the way you're doing it. Everything's good, man. Love it.
Right. It's a blast. So let's talk some current U of A football. Then I want to kind of go back to the Lamont Lovett, odyssey and how you got there, your playing day and whatnot. So, some people, I think, on the recruiting trail, they just kind of get it, and talking with a lot of the kids that are going to be coming in here that you're going to be calling their names a lot next season. The first thing that they talk about is that Jedd Fisch made me feel wanted. Jedd Fisch made me feel wanted more so than almost any other person, any other coach that was out there. And a lot of these guys, keep in mind, could have gone to Oregon, could have gone to SC. And when you're watching it up close, and you were obviously a high-level Division I athlete, how much does that mean for a recruit like that?
Oh, it means a lot, and he understands the importance of not just recruiting, the player, but recruiting their family. And he does like Brian Kelly, their family, he does a good job of just, really connecting with the families and connecting with the players and really he's just so good. I mean, he's good from the standpoint of he definitely has that it factor. When we first met him, we were all kind of taking that wait and see approach, when he got here, because we didn't really know. We hadn't, really followed him a lot and didn't know a lot about him, but he got right out in front of us and he started doing the work of building the relationship with the players and with the team right away. And it kind of showed us already that he kind of had chops. Like, this dude knows what he's doing, because he won us over really quickly. And then he outlined, his program and his organization and what he was looking to do. Brought in his coaches and let him on multiple Zoom calls, let him talk to us and really give us the rundown. And I was sold on him really quickly. So it doesn't surprise me that he's having the success that he's having on the recruiting trail, because it's like a well-oiled machine. And these guys they outwork everybody in our conference. And this is what they're going to find out the hard way, that you're not going to outwork this staff. You're not going to outwork Jedd Fisch. And I think he's going to be here to stay. He kind of proved that this year that he's going to be a problem if you overlook him. Do it at your own peril.
We had Brandon Sanders on. This was probably about 2-3 weeks ago. And Brandon said something, and keep in mind, when I was growing up, I was in awe of Brandon Sanders, because I've never seen somebody that was literally 5'8", 170, that could hit like him, that could do everything like him. And when Brandon said that, I was kind of in shock when he reached out to me about this position. I was like, but that goes to show me too that he gets it, because Arizona football has a proud tradition, Lamont, as you know better than anybody out there. And this is a group of guys out there that want to be involved in this. So, from an outsider's perspective, you might be thinking, well, yeah, no duh. But you know what? It's something that needs to be done. And that was the first step. And I think that's what you were talking about right there with Jedd reaching out to you. And like you said, I was sold pretty quickly.
Yeah. I mean, when they told us right away that we also plan to have some Arizona blood on the staff. We're not just bringing our guys in here, he knocked it out of the park. You get legends, Chuck Cecil, and you get, Ricky Hundley on the staff. Right then and there, you could shut it down right there and be like, okay, we're good. But then you bring in Brandon Sanders, who just really does a tremendous job of just connecting with the present and the past. And he's a legend in his own right. We just 3 legends right there for Arizona football, and all of them great personalities, all of them dynamic personalities, all of them in the coaching profession, all of them played in the pros.
Right.
It's really a no-brainer, to be honest, if you think about it. And it kind of drove me crazy that, just between me, you, and the walls, that other staffs didn't look harder at these guys and bring these guys in right away, because it just made so much sense to me. And it wasn't just, the fact that they played here, but it's the fact that they played here and the fact that they all were in the NFL and they all coached. And,
Right.
one was Brendan was a head coach, and Chuck was a defensive coordinator in the NFL, and Ricky was a defensive line coach in the NFL. I'm like, what? What more do you need to know? You want those type of guys around your players. You want those type of guys influencing your players because, that just makes sense,
Right. It makes perfect sense. And there's a passion, though, that I think that you guys have. Now, let's talk a little bit about this past season. Now, I know everybody knows 1-11. I get that. But Arizona was so much more competitive, though, in games than they had been in previous seasons. You look at a game like a Utah, and come to find out Utah was, pretty darn good. There was a lot of games like that where, Arizona didn't win, but there was an effort level. There was a team camaraderie type that you hadn't maybe seen in past years. So to me, if you just want to take the 1-11 approach, okay, whatever. But Lamont, to me, that's a little bit shallow when you consider everything that Coach Fisch had and how they battled this past year.
I couldn't have summed it up better than that. It's definitely shallow. If you know what you're looking at, if you watch the sport and you watch football, you understand that the team got better during the course of the year. You understand if you saw them the previous season and you saw them this season, you understand that they were so much tougher and competitive. We obviously knew that, they were going to win a Pac-12 championship in year one. We didn't know how many victories they were going to get out of it. And a lot of the guys even cautioned me, said, hey, we're going to get better and we're going to head in the right direction, but it may be a little rocky along the way. And it was, but for me, I was so, I was not discouraged at all because I understand where they came from. I understand these are basically the same nucleus of players, and they were just tremendously more competitive. They really, honestly, they had a couple of teams that you could argue they could have won the game.
Right.
The Utah game, they were going blow for blow with Utah till the end of the game. UCLA, blow for blow with UCLA until the quarterback got injured. They should have beat Washington.
Right.
Right off the bat, they're immediately competitive. And it really reminds me, honestly, a lot of when Mike Stoops got here. It was the same thing. You remember when he got here initially, the teams, they struggled a little in terms of wins and losses, but you always saw them slowly getting better, and you saw them becoming more competitive, and you saw them getting more and more guys on the team with winning attitudes, come from winning programs. And all those elements are here again. It's all lining up the same way. So, I'm just glad to be able to be on board and to watch this thing grow because it's definitely headed in the right direction.
You made a great point about Mike Stoops because I still think back to that first season, and obviously everybody knows about the Makovic era. But when I knew that things were headed in the right direction, I believe it was the Wisconsin game at home where, Arizona ends up losing at the end. But, it was like, I want to say it was a 9-6 game or something like that. I'm like, man, I'm seeing some fight. I'm seeing some battle that I haven't seen here before. And in football, only one of us played Division I football, and I'm going to give the people a hint out there. It wasn't me. So, that better than anybody, though, that it's, you've got to buy in there, and you've got guys that are buying in. Now, let me ask you this from an expert bird's eye view. What are you looking for next year then? You've obviously got a new quarterback coming in, top 20 type recruiting class. What is Lamont Lovett looking for next year? Not necessarily wins and losses, but just on the field production.
I'm just looking for the continued improvement. I'm looking for the offense to take some more steps forward with improved quarterback play and with another year in the system that now they're not going to be doing so much teaching. They can do a little bit more of perfecting and cause they have some guys here already that they can go get through the summer, get through the spring, get to the summer, and I think you're going to see a sharper team going into the season without as many questions marks. And I also, let's be honest, there's been a big infusion of talent that's gotten here, and you're crazy if you think that that's not going to pay dividends. Coach Fisch understands the importance of improving your roster, and that's what they went out and did. They put the focus on getting more talent here, and I just can't wait to see these guys get into the program. Let Tyler Owens get his hands on them, start developing these kids, and then just watching these guys blossom. It's hard to not get excited when you get the California, Offensive Player of the Year. That's right. Just mind blowing. Those are the people that you never see come to Arizona, and for him to do that after year one, it's mind boggling. I'm talking about T-Mac and just the inroads that they've made recruiting. One of the things that really kind of blown me away, if we're talking about recruiting again, it's hard to get away from it because it's been so positive. But I was thinking today, like, we've literally gotten into modern day. We've got players from
Servite, Bosco,
Servite. I mean, those are still just schools that you just, those names, you're just not hearing Arizona synonymous with. It's usually USC that you're hearing. Then in Arizona, we got a kid from Chandler. We got two kids from Hamilton.
Right.
I mean, right out the gate. I mean, we got a kid from St. Thomas Aquinas. They're building some inroads around the country. And those are the types of things, when you get players from those programs, you've got relationships now with those programs. And then you got the family members. And I mean, once you start that ball rolling, man, it's a beautiful thing, and I really feel that this is what this staff has done. And it's just exciting stuff hard to not be excited about.
All right, I want to get here into the Lamont Lovett, playing, then broadcasting here in just a second. But again, brought to you by the DraftKings Sportsbook app, code word PHNX. Here's the deal. You throw down $5 on the Super Bowl. You know what? If that team wins, you get $280 in free plays. Lamont, who do you like?
As far as the Super Bowl goes?
Yeah, who do you think's going to win?
Oh, I'm for the Rams. I'm rooting for the Rams.
California native.
Yeah, I feel like the Rams got a really good shot at it. I'm impressed with Cincinnati. It's going to be a great game. Truth be told, I'm a Chiefs fan, so my heart's crushed already. But that's okay.
Lamont, you guys aren't going in. Chiefs aren't going anywhere, though.
Yeah. I think they'll be around. But I'm definitely impressed with the Rams, and I've been following them, and especially I kind of feel like, A, I'm from LA, and then two, Coach Fisch was on their staff, and I know that a lot of stuff we do, we mirror a lot of things that the Rams are doing. So I've been keeping my eye on them. That's my second favorite team right now. So yeah.
Gotcha. Okay, so eligibility restrictions apply. 21 and up, Arizona only. Got a gambling issue? Call 1-800-NEXT-STEP. All right, Lamont, you're a Dick Tomey guy. So you were I want you to take us through first and foremost. I was talking with Dave Hickey a while back about the big thing that they wanted was a family type atmosphere around here, where when you think of Dick Tomey, that's what everybody thinks about. Talk to us a little bit about your high school career, who you're looking at, and Dick Tomey coming into your life. How did that all transpire?
Yeah, I'm from Southern California. I went to school, Benjamin Franklin High School. It's in a place called Highland Park. It's right bordering Pasadena. I lived in South Pasadena. And I played running back in high school. I was really not highly recruited until my senior year. My junior year, I rushed for 900 yards. No one really knew who I was. And then my senior year, I rushed for 2,333 yards and 28 touchdowns. And I was leading the state of California in rushing for most of the season. And all of a sudden, I was getting recruited by, the Pac-10 at the time. And, so I started getting recruited, started talking to the USCs, started talking to, Oregon State was a school. I took a trip to Cal. Washington was recruiting me. And then Arizona was recruiting me. And took trips to all of those places. And for one thing, if people know me, they know how much I hate bad weather. Mm-hmm. And so first thing is, I took a trip to Oregon State, and as I was flying in, the fog was so thick I couldn't see anything when the plane was landing. And then it rained the whole time. I was like, shit.
You're like, I'm out of here.
Yeah, that was not going to work. And then, I went to Berkeley, which I thought I was going to go there for a while because they were recruiting me pretty hard. Mm-hmm. But it came down to them in Arizona, and actually Washington was recruiting me for like 3 years, and then one weekend they got, they signed 3 running backs in one weekend, and I was supposed to go up there the next weekend. They signed,
and Washington's at the apex of college football at that point.
Yeah, they signed 3 superstars too, so I was like, I'm off their list.
Right.
I really wanted to go there too, but then I took my trip to Tucson, and of course, everybody who's been in Tucson, you see Tucson in December. I mean, come on, man. I came out here in December. I'm used to be from Southern Cal. I was right by the mountains, but they were so smoggy you couldn't see them all the time.
Right.
Here in Tucson, 75 degrees, beautiful. You could see the mountains crystal clear. And I was like, yeah, this is what I'm looking for. And it was a small town atmosphere that I kind of wanted. I was trying to get away from the big city because when you grow up in LA, either you love it or either maybe you're looking for something different.
Right.
I was thinking for college, it'd be nice to be in a place where I could concentrate and kind of, make my life there and everything that I got. Coach told me they started out recruiting me. Dwayne Aquina was my lead recruiter.
Mm-hmm.
He was just a tremendous recruiter. He built such a great relationship with me. And
did he try to get you to become a DB? Be honest.
No, he never did. He recruited me for running back. But
right.
Funny story is when I came out here on my trip, I don't really think Coach Tomey knew that much about me. I think Dwayne was like, you need to see this guy. And I get here on my trip, and he said, bring a game with you, bring like some video with you.
Right.
I was like, okay. So I brought my best game of the season, and we were at Coach Tomey's house up in the foothills, and there was a bunch of recruits over, and I don't think he said 2 words to me that night. And then Dwayne said, hey, why don't you put your video in? So I put my game in. It was a game where I ran for like 280 yards in the game, and I had like 4 touchdowns, and I had like a 270-yard touchdowns. And like by the time the first run, I ripped off a run, Coach told me, he says, who's that? And then he says, so this is him right here. And he was like, and then as it kept playing, I rip off another run. By the end of the night, Tomey's got his arm around me. he's nobody else. He's walking with me the whole night with his arm around me. He's like, we got a scholarship for you, right? We got a scholarship for you. And I was like, oh, okay. And everybody else was looking at me like, dang. But it was kind of cool. It was a neat experience for me because, like I said, I didn't really want to pay that much attention to me. Then after that, the next day, Tomey made sure to catch me again at dinner, at breakfast, and everything, and say, "Hey, I just want you to know that you're a priority for us," and blah blah. So I was sold. It was pretty easy to commit here. And
you were in a very interesting era for Arizona football because in about kind of that 2-year window, basically the entire nucleus of that team that would go on, either maybe not quite on the team, but the team that kind of pushed each other to get to that next level, that Desert Swarm level. Did you know when you were coming in early 90s that you had, so much talent around? And I know there was a time when Tomey just said, man, we're going to just start playing the freshmen. We're just going to start playing these kids. Did you have any idea what was eventually going to be able to come of all that?
We felt good about where we were when it got here. Because when I got here, they were like a 7 type of, win team. When I got here. In the first year, we went to the inaugural Copper Bowl and won that against North Carolina State. And we pretty much won a bowl game most of the time that I was here.
Right.
So, I expected some success, but then it, it's funny. We had some pretty decent success in the beginning, and then we kind of fell off. We had like a crazy season where we had it was like one spring we had like 10 knee injuries on our team at once, and it was like we really struggled that year. But I think we ended up going to the Aloha Bowl or something like that. But it was just a lot of people. A lot of people got injured, and it was we kind of struggled a little bit that season. And then during that spring, they changed the defense around. They brought in this, double eagle.
Double eagle flex.
Yeah, and they moved, some guys around, and I knew right away that spring, man, when I was running against that defense like this, something's different, man, because I just remember on a goal line play where it was in spring ball. I was taking a handoff, and I could see Rob Waldrop absolutely throw the center, and I was like, I didn't even have the ball in my hands yet. And I was like,
right.
Oh my God,
right.
You just knew it was different. That the defense all of a sudden was just monstrous. We couldn't move the ball on them, so. We knew we had something different, but we didn't really realize how good they were going to be until the season started. And even in that year, we had some serious ups and downs in that year. The defense was always good, but our offense was trying to find their way. And a turning point for us was we played Oregon State up there, and they were considered the worst team in the country. There was an article in Sports Illustrated that said they were the worst team in the entire country.
Right.
And we went up there and played them, and we tied with them.
Right.
Rain. And we were so crushed after that. But we also felt like we still were, we were better than that. We knew that for some reason we were underachieving. And we just kind of came together under those circumstances. Coach Tomey had some serious talks. I remember he was in so much pain. I remember getting onto the plane that night that he he stopped before he told the pilot to stop and not take off, and he told the whole team to gather around, and he just says, I don't care what anybody says about us. And he was just like, we're a team, we're like a fist, and he was like, we're going to stay together through this no matter what. And he was like kind of tearing up when he was talking to us, and it just was kind of one of those moments where it was just kind of a turning point.
Right.
I think we went on like a 6-game winning streak. After that, we were supposed to play Miami the next week after losing to the worst, tying with the worst team in the country. We played the number 1 team in the country the next week. And we went up there. I just remember when we were, walking onto the field. I just remember we walked through this gauntlet of police officers, and they were laughing at us. They were like going like when we were walking by and everything. And
did you think that a kick was going to end up deciding the game? That it was going to be that close?
No. When we got there, we just were loose. We were just like, we don't have anything to lose anyway. And one thing we said was, we're looking at the film. We were like, these guys are really good, but we also know that our defense is going to really beat these guys down. We just knew from looking at the film. We were like, if they do that stuff against us, they're going to be in trouble. And sure enough, they were doing those regular drops and doing the regular, just like we're Miami.
Right.
The defense was beating the tar out of them. They were just getting killed, and then we were actually starting to move the ball on them after a while. When it got into deep into the third quarter, we were like, we can win this game.
Right.
And that's when it just changed. And after that game, it's funny, I heard Brandon talking about that. I just remember after the game that we were so torn up in the locker room because, we just went off of it was like a roller coaster. We went from, the lowest of lows to thinking that we were going to upset, the number 1 team in the country when no one thought we had any business to be in there. Then when we walked off the field, the Miami crowd was applauding us. They were like, you guys are good, and
right.
And so in the locker room, I just remember, Brandon and some other guys saying that, you know what, we're not losing any more games. We're not going to lose any more games. And everybody just was kind of like, we're not going to lose any more games. And I think we went on like a 6-game winning streak,
Right.
And we ended up, we ended up beating Washington, the number 1 team in the nation that year. And so just that was the birth of like the Desert Swarm. That was kind of the birth of it all. And I remember the funniest thing, a great story is we were playing Cal. And I remember while the game was going, we were kind of whooping Cal. We kind of beat Cal up. And we were in the locker room. Teddy Bruschi goes, you know what they're calling us now? We was like, what? Someone says, they're calling us the Desert Swarm. And everybody was like, oh, that's kind of cool. And then it just kind of stuck from there,
Right.
And so that was a really fun time, to be a Wildcat, and just, the team was we were close, and it was just great watching.
And it was such a community. You know what it was, Lamont, too? It was such, from an outsider perspective, to keep in mind, I'm like 8 at the time, but it was such a community feel, though. And you felt fully invested in this. Everybody knew kind of who everyone was, and you could see that something was building too. And I think that's what was exciting about everything that you guys were able to put down that template. Now, let me ask you this. Did the city realize during, from about 87 to 98, did the city realize what we had in Dick Tomey?
I think some people did. I think some people, I think one of the things probably that we weren't as exciting on offense as maybe people liked, and so and he had this mentality. He had a very defensive mentality. You know what they say: offense sells tickets, defense wins championships. And
right.
I don't know if they really appreciated what this team accomplished. With what we had to work with, and we were considered maybe middle of the road facilities during the time, but.
The stat that I always bring up to people is you guys in the 90s had the second most wins of any team in the Pac-10.
That's right.
There's no other you can't spin that any other way, Lamont. That's Arizona football in the 1990s, by any metric, was no joke.
No, it was not a joke. And it's funny, I talked to a lot of guys during that time, guys from USC, because I was from Southern Cal, that said, man, we beat you guys a lot, but we always knew that we were going to be in for a fight when we played you guys. And that was what Coach Tomey was, man. He was a guy that he had this fighter's mentality. He would not allow us to ever, not be the toughest team on the field. And he just, he coached us that way. And we didn't believe we were going to ever lose a game. Even though we would lose a game, he made you believe that you could beat anybody at any time. And it manifested, when we upset, the number one team in the country. And it manifested, in Fiesta Bowl when we beat the dog out of Miami. And we beat some, he had some great accomplishments.
I was reading
1 year,
I was reading an article. This was back this is probably about 10 years ago. I was reading an article about Miami football, and I can't remember who it was, but he was talking about it was Ray Lewis, and it was just like a quick little quip about the Arizona, about playing Arizona. And he said, honestly, the only guy that I had really heard of was Chuck Levy, just because he was a massive recruit out of Linwood. Mm-hmm. And that was it. And they didn't take Arizona seriously. And then, oh, by the way, 29-0 later, Arizona football's on the map at that point.
Yeah, what I remember about that Fiesta Bowl week was the entire week, Miami was all over Phoenix. They were in the clubs and everything, and they were just, just everywhere and talking about what they were going to do. And again, it was one of these things like we played them already, and we had already kind of beat them up when we played them a couple of years ago. And when we saw them this time, we're like, this team is not even as good as the team that was the number one team in the nation. So we were like, if they put this crap out on the field, we're going to beat the crap out of them. And that's pretty much, they ran all the same stuff, and we just murdered them in the game, and we kind of knew it. I got a funny story for you. They had a linebacker. Their starting linebacker was Bob Marley's son. His name was Rohan Marley. Mm-hmm. And before the game started, I was walking out, for Sunday Stadium. I'm walking out onto the field, getting ready to warm up. And I smell weed.
Right.
And I was like, who the heck is smoking it? And I look to the right, and I see him just like big toke and just blowing it out right before the game starts. And I was like,
you're like, man, you're in for a long afternoon right here.
And, I don't know. I went up against him a lot in that game. Let's just say I won a lot of those battles.
Right.
It was just pretty funny that. That's what they were doing before the game,
You really were. What's funny, too, is you were really in an impressive backfield where, you played in an era where you've got, and guys were kind of, spread out. You weren't all the same class, but you got a Lamont Lovett. You've got later on an Antoine Carter. You got a Chuck Levy, who's kind of this option quarterback that becomes receiver. You got other guys like a Billy Johnson. That running back room was loaded, Lamont.
Oh, yeah, those are some great players that you just named off. And, those guys were just great to be around. Billy was my roommate in college, tremendous person and a great player. Chuck Levy, just freak athlete. Chuck, I remember one time thinking about Chuck, they were timing us in 40s before, and he was running against one of my best buddies, David Lockhart, who's all track guy. So they paired up those two guys. They were two of the fastest guys on the team. And when they said, go, to take off, Chuck slipped. He his foot kind of slid out from underneath him. And then he got up and ran, and the dude ran a 4.3. And I was just like, I quit.
Right.
he was just so fast that it was just like.
It's funny. Anthony Gimino obviously covered you guys for a long time. And he always said there were three guys that, when we were at Camp Cochise or they showed up, that they just looked different to me than everybody else. And he said it was Chuck Levy, it was Chris McAllister, who shows up in combat fatigues, and everyone's like, is that James McAllister's kid? And Rob Gronkowski, obviously. So that's a pretty cool story right there. All right, let me ask you this. Well, first of all, DraftKings Sportsbook app, code word PHNX. Throw down $5 on the Super Bowl. Your team wins. You get $280 in free plays. Lamont and I both think the Rams are going to win. Take that for what it's worth. And you know what? Lamont's a Chiefs fan. I'll tell you this. I would love to be in your position because you guys aren't going anywhere, Lamont.
They got to fix that defense. But, yeah, I think we're going to be all right.
You're going to be all right. All right. Before I let you go, and again, this has been an honor. This has been truly an honor to talk to you. Tell us then now a little bit about how did you get into broadcasting then? Because the one thing, and again, I'm going to bring my mom up one more time. She loves your enthusiasm. And at least from my perspective, I think what's refreshing about listening to you and Brian is that it's like listening. There's nothing stodgy about it. It's like you got the play-by-play, you got the color analyst who are both just calling the game the way they see it. But watching your enthusiasm when a guy gets a big run, how did the interview process go for you? How did you become interested in that? And you obviously love what you do.
I do. The interesting thing about it is there was a gentleman named Les Josephson who was doing color commentary for many years, and just an all-time great NFL player as well. I guess there was a point where they felt like they were going to go in a different direction. I was doing at the time. I was a media arts major in college. Emphasis in sports broadcasting was my major, and but I didn't know if radio was going to be the way I was going to go, if TV was going to be the way I was going to go. I didn't really know in the beginning, and just with connections, Dana Cooper is another person who still works with us right now. He used to do like the Dick Tomey show, and he used to do the call-in show afterwards. He asked me, a few times if I wanted to sit in. He goes, "Aren't you a media arts major?" He asked me to sit in with him on the show. And so that's when I first got my first start with radio. I would sit in and just analyze the games afterwards. Dana stopped doing it. And a few years later, I think I was in real estate or something. And a gentleman by the name of Ryan Radke
he's gone on to do okay.
Yeah, right. We still talk. I laugh at him. I'm like, "You're killing me, dude." I'm hearing you call the Raider games because he's the biggest Raider fan in the world. And I was listening to him call it. I said, "You talk about, landing on your feet, Right. I'm so proud of him too, because he's a really good friend of mine.
He's big. He's big time too, for sure.
Yeah, he's a stud. Yeah.
Right.
But him, Eric Tomei was another one. They both gave me an opportunity to on the radio again, and so I started doing the call-in shows, and so I over time I think I probably was getting a following. People were liking my analysis of the games, things like that. And then one day Brian just said, "Hey, Lamont, I want to take you to lunch," and so I said, "Okay." Brian Jeffries wants to take me to lunch. I want to go.
I'm not saying no to that one.
So we were at lunch, and the first time we just talked. We just chatted about kind of the state of things, chatted about football, and I think he was just filling me out. I had no idea why he wanted to take me to lunch. And then after we had lunch, he called me back again another time, and he says, "Hey, I got an idea." He says, "I want to propose something to you." He says, "I know you don't have a lot of experience, but I wanted to see if you'd be interested in doing color commentary." And I was like, "What?" I was like, "Yeah, of course I would." So it was a lot of, in the beginning, he took me to his house and broke out a recorder, and we'd watch a football game. We were doing play-by-play together there. I was practicing. He drilled me and just kind of, prepped me that way. And then I think we called like the spring game. And after we did the spring game and they recorded it live, he was like, "Okay, I think you're ready. You did some good stuff there." And I was like, "Oh, okay," because I was complete novice at what I was doing.
Right. And when Brian Jeffries is signing off on something, you're like, "I'm doing something right."
Yeah, and it hasn't been perfect through the years. I'll be the first to admit. Brian will be giving us a call, and I'd be like, "Oh," jump all over his call and everything. And then after they had to be like, "Hey, you can't. When Brian's talking, you can't be commenting while he's talking." I was like, okay. So it took me time to understand, kind of get the timing of things.
Was your guys' chemistry because that's the other thing too? Your guys' chemistry is off the charts good. Was that something? Did you guys just click pretty quickly?
I feel like I've always clicked with Brian because he's just a great guy.
Right.
First of all, he's just a really great guy, and he's just a wealth of knowledge, and he really is a giving person in terms of if you ask Brian something, he will he'll pour into you. He's good like that, and so he's been nothing but helpful to me. And if I need if he needs to be critical and give me some I'll ask him, like, "What did you think of this?" And he's always just been that type of a person. And the other guys around me, I think we're all a team, and they've always kind of helped us. And over the years, I feel like we have some good chemistry now. We both get that same energy going, get excited at the same time, and I think we both are passionate about the U of A. Mm-hmm. I think that comes through in our broadcast. I feel like, sometimes people are just doing it because it's a job.
Yeah.
Me and Brian, like when we lose games, like we are both like really upset.
Yeah, for sure.
Lose a game, like it really takes us a while, to kind of get over it. And or if we're having a rough season, and because we take it personal, like I said, we're all passionate about the U of A, and so I think that probably comes across as well. And he's the consummate professional, and I always just do my best to try to live up to, to maybe someday to be, thought of in the same light as he is, because he's just a superstar and he's a legend as far as U of A goes. And, I just love it. Like I say, I do it for nothing. I get paid to do it, but I would do it for nothing. It's so much I love it. It's something that I look forward to every year. And I get so much out of it. I mean, they don't understand how much I get out of it. Being able to still hang around the team and be able to still be a fan and be able to, still be involved with the program and be able to, still, know people inside the program. It's great. It's awesome to feel, to keep that connection. So yeah, I'm living, a dream doing this. So it's great to do. It's fun.
The best thing I can tell you is that it certainly comes across on the radio, my man. You guys are top notch. I can't thank you enough for coming on, and I'd love to have you on again sometime, Lamont. This has been fantastic. I can't thank you enough, buddy.
Oh, anytime, man. Like I said, you do a great job. Anytime you need me, you know how to find me. I'll be glad to come on. All
right. For Lamont Lovett, I'm Mike Luke. We'll be back with you post-game show tomorrow. You've been listening to the AZ Wildcats podcast.